And welcome everybody to the Hit International podcast, Power of Man. My name is Rory Paquette. I am, as always, your very grateful host. Thank you so much for being with us today. We have another fantastic guest for you today. We don't stop bringing powerful men to you because that's what you want, that's what you need. And everybody who comes in the show is an example of if this person can get through it, you know what? You can handle the stuff happening in your life too. And then we're not deviating from that today. I'll tell you that right now. We've got a guy who's been through it, and he's on today because he wants to share his story, just in case somebody else out there is going through something similar, to make sure that they know that you're never alone. Not here, not now, not while we have this podcast going. Let me take care of a couple of quick housekeeping items first, and the first of which is, you know what? Thank you, everybody, because Power of Man grew over 30% last year in 2024. We got all our numbers in, posted it up on Instagram in case you didn't see it. That's huge growth. That's insane growth for a podcast. And that just means that there are an awful lot of you folks out there downloading us. We've been in over 50 countries at this point, and it's huge. So thank you so much to everybody who's downloading us and sharing us and, getting something out of this. If you are a father, a husband, or aspire to be one day, if you're a young man especially, and you'd like to be part of our men's group online at Facebook, our Facebook group is The Power of Man Within. Go ahead and fill out your application real quick, submit it. I'd love to bring you in. I'd love to make you part of our family over there and part of our brotherhood. Before we get going, though, I do need to take a quick sip of my preferred beverage. I think I need two sips. Oh, God, that's good stuff. Deep, dark, rich, bold, beautiful, just like my wife. That's right. If you're a friend of the program, and I'll bet you are, you know that we're drinking Freedom Hill Coffee. At Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram, look them up, check them out. They brew a mean cup of joe. They do all the right things for all the right reasons, and they support veterans, which is why we support them. Go check them out and tell them Rory sent you from Power Man. Guys, this is a story where you're just going to be shaking your head. I'm telling you right now. You're going to be going, you got to be kidding me. When I first met this young man, and it's been my pleasure. We've been talking for a while. He's a hell of a guy, and he's tough. He's tough. I'm going to tell you right now. This guy has a story, and I want you to be patient as it unfolds because we want to cover a lot of it. And he has a reason to tell it because he wants to help other people, and he's on here to do that today. So everybody, please welcome me in welcoming Josh Brocco to the program. Josh, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, man. We've been trying to arrange this for a while, but you're busy. You're
We
busier than
have.
I am.
I know it's been crazy between moving and just all these different parts right now. It's been a lot, and I just got a different job. I just accepted a teaching position, so I'm going to be a full-time teacher in the coming weeks. So I just accepted
Congratulations.
that. So
Man, that's
thank
fantastic.
you. So I
That's awesome.
yes, thank you. I'm really excited about that.
World's noblest profession right there, man. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's,
it really is, and it truly is, and it's a pleasure to do it. And I work with K through 2 students, so real small kids, and it's I deal with a lot of special needs children, and it's a very rewarding and humbling experience. And like every day that I go and I do it, I'm just astounded that I'm actually able to do it because I've the patience that you have to have is out of this world, and I've learned that I have that. So, and I've learned that I can calm students much better than their aides can. So I've just been called by so many people to help calm the kids just because I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's just have a conversation. Let's just chat. So I truly enjoy that part of my life, but that's the fun part of my life right now, the my job and all
well,
that. But
that's
I do have the other thing is you said veteran owned. I want to say that the company that I owned, my photo booth company, we are so my brother-in-law is he's a retired who's in the service. So we offer a 10% discount for anybody who's in the service, anybody who's ex-military, anything. That's extremely important to us because, it's a veteran's wife. My sister's, she's a veteran's wife. So we do that's a very big part of our lives is that as well. So I just wanted to mention that because when you said the veteran owned, that's us as well.
yeah. Well, you know
So
what? Before we get
AO
into this,
personalized events.
no, go ahead. Yeah, tell them about the business a little bit, real quick.
It is a photo booth, balloon art, decor rental, event coordination. We just did a wedding for a terminally ill bride. It was a completely donated wedding. I got everything donated. It was about between 45 and $50,000 worth of donations for a bride, stage 4 breast cancer. And my company that I own with my sister Victoria, we did the whole entire thing, the whole wedding, and pulled the entire thing off in less than 3 months, and all donated by the most incredible people just from a simple Facebook post. And it's definitely something I look forward to doing again in the near future.
That's amazing. I mean, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, to get anybody to
Yeah.
give anything these days seems like a pretty hard thing, and you managed to do that.
It was. I wanted two things. I wanted a live painter, if you've ever seen that, where the live painter takes the moment and then she'll capture one photograph and then she'll paint the moment. And that's about a $5,000. And I just put it, I said, I want a live painter for this bride because she's got two kids. And I said, I want to have something beautiful for after she's, for the inevitable. And this woman reached out and she said, "Oh my goodness, I would love to do it. I'll donate." And it is the most gorgeous work and so perfect into life. I wanted that, and I wanted what was the other thing? I wanted the content creator. So just because we had a lot of people come in, and I got everything that I wanted to take care of her, so she had things for her kids for the future, so that when again with the inevitable, she's got a beautiful day to look back on. Because it was a lot, but it was incredibly humbling and gratifying.
Wow. I mean, we could do a whole episode just on that,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, but that
Yes,
is
it
really
really
cool.
was.
That's really cool. If you give me that information, we'll put that in the show notes for anybody who
Yes,
wants to
absolutely.
click on it, website or something, or anything that we can do to spread the word.
Yes.
And we'll do that
Yes, that would be great. Just
for
I'd
you and your
absolutely
sister.
love that.
Yeah, for sure, man. You
Yes.
and your sister are
Thank you,
good
man.
people. All right.
We try.
Yeah. Now, when you and I first started talking, you let me in a little bit on some of the things you've been dealing with, and one of the things we talk about on this show a lot is the importance of being a father, because so many of us, had father issues or didn't have fathers growing up, or had fathers we wish we didn't have, You have a very unique story. And the more I heard about it, the more I was just like, you got to be kidding me. It was like every time we talked, something else came out about this whole situation. And
Mhm.
as I was struck by everything I kept hearing, I was even more knocked over by the way you were handling it, man. I mean, you really took it in stride and kind of handled things. So at
Yeah.
some point today, when you're done talking about what's happened, I want to make sure we're addressing, where the hell you got that strength from. I'm guessing maybe a little bit from your mom, but it's
Yes.
pretty incredible. So why don't you
Thank
start
you.
at the beginning? Okay, you're a kid. You don't have the life that a lot of people have. You find out some things. Just go ahead and tell your story, brother.
No, it was a very, very interesting ride. I had a very interesting childhood. I always saw my parents arguing, always saw them fighting. So I never saw a good marriage. So I never had that set up for me for, oh, when you grow up, this is what you want, to be. And he would disappear for days on end and come back. And sometimes he would have money. Sometimes he had been at the casino. Most times he was with his other, I guess we would just say is his girlfriend. He was married to my mom for 22 years, and 12 of those he was with another woman, another family, and a few towns over from us. And the woman that he's currently married to has been the easiest way to put it is a thorn in our side since the very beginning, even for my mom going back to high school. This goes back as far as high school for my mom. So it's just really awful for her. And I think the strength that she's gotten from all this is where I get that from. Because when you go through these kinds of things and you're a child and you see your parents fighting and you hear the door slamming, it really affects you. And he was physically there until I was 18, but he would disappear, like I said, for periods of time. He would be gone and he'd be in Atlantic City and he would be with her. And we called them several times on different phone calls. The phone logs back in 2008, you could see text messages on the back end of like Verizon would show you the back end text messages. And my mom had a weird feeling and she asked me to do her a favor. I was 18 and I did. And she got confirmation that he was still with her. And she confronted him and was he was strangling her. They got into a physical altercation and I've never heard my mother scream so loud in my life. And it was in that moment that I know that that was the moment of my life when everything changed. I remember how I felt in that moment. I was frozen to the ground. I couldn't move. She was screaming for me. My mom's handicapped. To add to that, she's got 8 pounds of metal on her back. So he had her hogtied and he
Oh
had
my
his knee in
God.
her back where she's got the metal, all because she confronted him over this, affair that he was still having. And to this day, he's still with her. And it's an awful thing because I said to him, you could have done so many different things, but what you did with her was the worst. I can't accept the fact that you allowed her to take shots at us in court when my parents finally did get divorced after that had happened. She dragged us through because she had the power over my father and dragged us through. And I'm not going to say the word because it's so bad. It's the word for Down syndrome.
Okay.
She called us that in court papers, was written about us. So we were socially that. And it was a very, it was a hurtful thing because to this day, I still think about that, how she could have said that about my sister was 15 and I was 18. So I was already emancipated, but I was still mentioned in the court papers.
Hmm.
But once they were divorced, we didn't speak for years. We didn't because it was just so toxic. And then a period of time came about when I was like, you know what, let's try forgiveness. And this was maybe 10, 12 years ago. And 3 or 4 times we tried it. And then there was an argument and then we were done. And that was over the course of like a year. And I'm like, it's never going to get better. It's never going to change. He's always going to be toxic. He's always going to be, he would yell and argue with me over the stupidest things. And I never understood what I was doing wrong as a kid to make him so mad at me and to make him angry at me. Uh, and it just is one of those things to this day I still don't understand until, you know, time jump here until I'm now 34 years old and I'm feeling a little weird. So I say, I'm going to go to the doctor and I say, I think I might have ADHD. I think I have a little ADD. What's going on? And she took me through a slew of tests and I sat there answering some pretty invasive questions and some ones that you really don't want to have to answer, but I did. And she goes, okay, I have a diagnosis. I said, okay, so ADHD. And she said, bipolar 2. And I asked her 3 more times if she was sure. And she said, yes, I am. And she goes, I said, could it be genetic? And she goes, your mother or your father? And I said, my father. So he is bipolar 1, but he's undiagnosed. But based off my symptoms and based off his, that's where I got it from. So when he came back around recently, I texted him basically just saying, heads up, you should really go to the doctor and get yourself checked for bipolar disorder because I have it. And it was just basically, just a little screw you to him just because it was around Christmas. So it was just a little, little Christmas present for you. He we started talking back and forth, and around that time I started taking the medication for the bipolar disorder, and it shifted my brain and it shifted my focus, and I didn't want to go at his throat the way that I wanted to. I wanted to just have a conversation with him. And we started talking, and he started to be the person that he was when he would have those good moments, when he would have his up, that's when he's great. And when he has his down, it's so bad that you just want to curl up into a ball and die. And he used to have this thing we would call Thursday. On Thursday, leading into the weekend, he would be in a rage. And if a birthday or Christmas fell during that time, watch out. It was awful. And years go by, so just a little time gap again. Now he's reaching back out to us because he wants, to atone for his sins, I guess. And he's real cool with us. This was about a year and a half ago. And he says he drops a major bombshell that he needs to have a triple bypass after we've started getting along and everything's great. And he then moves in to my house
Hmm.
that I had escaped my old house from, and he moves into my house, into my bedroom, into my space. And he, during that time, recovering from surgery, he left the other woman to come back to this family. So I was away on vacation and I came back home to no more personal space, nothing. And he was here. My abuser was living here. But I was at that time as well. I wasn't diagnosed, but I was trying to just make things work with him. So I said, okay, let's do this. He moves in and he's here for all of 6, 7 weeks recovering, and he wasn't doing anything to recover. He wasn't doing his PT. He wasn't walking. I couldn't even get him to go outside for a walk. And it caused so many arguments. And one night I was actually sitting out because the bedroom's on the first level, and when you open the door, it goes right to the dining area. And I was sitting there and I was saying my prayers for the night. I pray every night. And it was like 12:30, and I'm a night owl. I'll be up till 2, 3, listening to music, writing, doing all that. And he comes out to get something to eat from my bedroom and was in a manic episode and went off on me in a way that I can't even describe to you, and told me that I was the cause of all the problems in his life. Slammed my door in my face, But he was mad because I had such a dazed look on my face when he walked out of the bedroom. I was praying, not a dazed look. I was in the middle of saying my prayers, like I do every single night. And that was in that moment I said, okay, huh, get the hell out. And I told my sister, and that next morning his shit was on the front lawn. And I'm not joking. There's pictures of it. And I said, have her come pick you up. I don't want to speak to you ever again. And that was it. And it was traumatizing because he was here for that time. And I really thought things were going to be different. We played the perfect family for a little while.
Yeah.
And I learned during that time, I guess I'm a good actor because I acted like I wanted to be part of this loving family, but it's always going to go back to being toxic. There's never a clean version of us. We've tried it, and when my sister would go after him and they would argue, it was the worst thing you would ever see. And it's awful. And he took shots at her that he shouldn't have, that she's now got tremendous issues up at that she can't do anything about really because he said these things and she has to just accept them. So now learning that I have bipolar 2 and I have all these things, I've had to reshift my whole entire life because I'm not going to live with my diagnosis defining me because that's not me. I'm letting people know that I have, this mental illness, if you want to, whatever you want to call it, but it is something that we manage. I manage with medication. I have a great doctor who I can't thank enough, but it was a real fast diagnosis, and that's why I asked so many times. And then I took some quizzes myself and did all that, and it all came up the exact same. So it was like the male equivalent of like taking 7 or 8 pregnancy tests. So just to make sure, because I
Yeah.
was like, are you positive? But when I hear bipolar, I go to schizophrenia and multiple personalities and all these different things. And I said to her, I just flat out said, am I crazy? And she looked at me and she's like, no. She's like, you're not schizophrenic, you're not. She goes, there's bipolar, and then there are things that go with it. There are just, there are other factors and things. And I was like, okay, I understand. I truly understand, but it's a tough pill to swallow. And it took me a month before I started the medication because I was terrified of it. When I read the side effects, which I never do, but I just kind of looked them up and they were intense to the point where I was like, if I take this, it could be the end for me because, there was many, suicidal thoughts, ideologies, all those things. And I'm like, that's scary. So when I was taking it, I was journaling, I started, and thank God it's affected my sleep and it's affected my appetite a little bit. But aside from that, it's been, really helped me just kind of take the edge off. But I still, with the situational things going on in my life, find that I have those moments of anger that just kind of pop up. And I can't really do anything about it because I have to express the way I feel. And if I come across that I'm being rude or anything, I'm just I'm just trying to get it out. And now I
Uh,
apologize if it's anything terrible, but it's awful because I don't want to take out my all my things on other people. And
yeah.
now learning that there was a reason behind it makes me feel good and makes me feel better. But at the same time, I've apologized to everybody for the way that I was because I didn't know that I was, bipolar. I didn't know any of these things, and I wish I had. It had been missed by every doctor I had been to for decades. So it's not an easy thing.
Let's take a breath for a minute. Just for 1 second, because
Give you all that day.
cool. Wow, that was a lot to
Yeah.
unpack, brother. And everybody I'm sure is listening to this just sort of like enthralled. It's like
Yeah.
it's like taking the punches along with you. Let me go back
Yeah.
a little bit. Um,
Oh, yes.
so when this happened, and you were having that instance, with your mom and the way he was treating her, when he was hurting her. Was that when you found out that this all was going on? Was that all part of the same event, or
No, we all knew. It
you
was
knew
this was
before
this
then?
was in 2008. Yes, we the confirmation was that
Okay.
2008 cell phone record. Um, I remember that day like it was November 6th, 2008,
Yeah.
12:25 p.m. The exact moment that my life completely changed. And from
Okay.
that moment, that was my doctor diagnosed with PTSD. So I remember that, and that was back I was 18. And then I look back on that time and I just go, oh my God, I'm 34 now. I'm like, how did I get through that? And I honestly can tell you there's no other choice but to just keep going.
Yeah.
You have no other choice. I said it to my mom last night. The other choice is death, unfortunately. You either keep going or you die. And I just have to keep going because
Right.
this is not something that I'm going to let consume me.
So you knew about it for a while, and he had a whole other
Yeah.
family.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
that
family.
that just sort of blows my mind. I mean, he had another
Yeah.
entire life that he was basically just living
Uh,
a few days a
mhm.
week, and then living the life with you guys a few days a week.
Yeah,
I mean, that
exactly.
that's like
He
something
would
out of
just
a movie.
disappear and come back. I wrote it. I mean, I took that story and then I wrote it. That was when I went through when I said to my psychiatrist, or sorry, my therapist, I said to her, I wrote 30 screenplays in 18 months. And she goes, "Oh, that was a manic episode." I said, "But really, no, it was my creative time. You know, it was a really fun creative time for me." And I told her I'd written each episode of the show, it's called Bigger Love. Each episode really details things that have happened in my life, and I've spent years trying to get people to read it and to have it, be made, but it's difficult because I do get to retell my story and tell it in a creative, fun way, and I keep facts in there, but I did change some things. Like the two women, the two base characters become best friends. They're not, I don't pit the women against each other like it is in my real life. I could not do that, especially
Sure.
if we actually get to make it. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch two women arguing like I've been my whole life.
Right.
So I made them become best friends. So that to me is one of the most beautiful parts of the show. And I've gone through many rewrites. I've taken what happened this past year when he was, living here a year and a half ago. I've included that in there. I've taken the character and aged him, the character I wrote as myself. I've aged him like 8 years because I wrote this when I was, 5, 6 years ago. So,
Right.
so I've aged everything because I have these aspirations because I want people to see that these kinds of things, a father has another family, it's common. It's extremely common. And during the pandemic, a ton of people found out that, oh, dad's not home. He's somewhere else. And I found that out from a few people.
Wow.
So it's really something that does happen, but it's so incredibly taboo that we won't talk about it. But
Yeah.
I will, you know?
Well, I'm glad. Now,
So
I knew you had a screenplay. I don't know how I missed that the
yeah.
screenplay itself was your life.
Yeah.
So the
It's
screenplay
I got
that you've
14
been,
episodes of it.
yeah, the screenplay you've been marketing and that you've been out there, trying to get a deal from, because I know you've been going through a
Yeah.
lot trying to get this done.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking for a long time. But this screenplay
Yeah.
is the story of your life and what happened here and
Hmm.
everything you're telling us just in much greater
Hmm.
detail. Wow.
Oh yeah. And it was the the one thing about this one story I do want to share because this is something that's so incredibly special to me. This is one of my absolute favorite things. When I was writing the show, I didn't know have an ending for it. I just had the idea, and it was the summer of 2016. It was the best summer of my life. Just graduated college. Everything was great. I was at the beach with my sisters, and my sister had hoop earrings in, and they were like her favorite. And all of a sudden, the wave came in, took one earring, and she goes, "Oh, well, what am I gonna do?" And tosses into the ocean the other one. So I said, "Okay, your birthday's coming. Let me get you earrings." And I went to Kohl's, and I was looking for earrings for her, and I heard a song playing. Never heard it before. And all of a sudden, in that moment, the ending to my show came to me and hit me like a ton of bricks. I got my phone out. I figured out what the song was, and if it wasn't for me going and her losing her earrings in the ocean and me having to go pick up this, because I've never heard the song ever again, ever. Um, I heard it and I had the ending, and then I found the earrings and I found my sister, and she goes, "Did you just hear that song?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I Shazammed it because I had a feeling you were gonna love it." I said, "You got to be kidding me." And I went home and I wrote the actual last moments of the show before the middle was finished. So I had the ending finished, and then I took everything and it all made sense. And then I wrote a second season of it because I was bored. So I have 14 screenplays. So each one is like between 60, some of them are 75 pages. So it's broken up into two, but it's my passion. It really, really is. And I just wrote one with Pamela Anderson in mind because I got to meet her a few times and she inspired me to get back to writing. So as crazy as it sounds, Pam Anderson, the sex icon, and then she's for me a writing, inspiration.
Yeah, you
So
you mentioned that to me. I mean, when you were talking about meeting her and how awesome she was and everything else. So, how
yeah.
did you end up meeting Pamela Anderson and more than that, talking to her about your screenplay? I mean, that just doesn't happen to
Well,
the average guy on the street.
Well, let me tell you, I've snuck backstage at concerts. I have gotten myself into places that I shouldn't have been. So I'm really good at doing that. But this was a legal way that I did it this time. It was a book signing in New York City. And I had seen my first Broadway. I had never gone to Broadway. I live in Jersey and I had never been to Broadway and seen any shows on there. First show I ever saw was Chicago and she was Roxy Hart.
Yeah.
So I got to see her on stage and I was like, oh my God, she is just absolutely gorgeous and she's funny and talented. And I got the playbill and everything was perfect. And then that documentary came out that she did, and a book came out with it. And I think you'll be proud of this. Her son produced it, the documentary. So at the signing, I said, if I don't go up to him and shake his hand and give him my information, I'm going to kick myself. So in line, I happen to have met a Pam impersonator who's now a really good friend of mine. So she was dressed in about 6-inch heels and she was wearing the barbed wire outfit, which, if you don't know what that looks like, it's just basically boobs out. And I was just like, I don't know how you're doing this, but good for you. And she had all the confidence in the world. So we were recognized. And Pam would not pose for photos with anybody. She posed for photos with my friend Ava. So we got in line and just, I said, her son's right there. So I went over and I shook his hand. I said, congratulations on the documentary. And I said, I would love to work with you. I have some things in mind. I said, I have this for you. I gave him my information. And then I got up on the stage to go meet Pam. And I said, I saw you on, I saw you on Broadway. And she was so happy that, I mentioned that. And above me, I have what she signed. It's a centerfold, very classy with the corset and everything from the show, signed by her. And I got the book as well right here, signed by her. And it was one of those things where I was talking to her and I said, I hope to work with you one day. I really, really do. And I shook her hand. And then my sister had gone up and met her, and it was real sweet. And then, but a few months ago, she has the second book come out. She's at the same Barnes and Noble. And I said, well, I'll be damned. I'm going.
Right.
And this time I didn't bring anything with me. I didn't bring my work with me. I had sent you the idea for the script that I wrote with her in mind. I have met so many celebrities and brought them my work. I didn't do it this time because I said, just go for fun. When I get up there to meet her, do you have anything for me to read? Do you have any writing for me?
That's right. You told me that.
I've never been so disappointed in my life. And I went, no, but basically you're telling me now that I can solicit your production company and all those things. So she did ask for work. So I've been working on trying to get back in touch with her. It's not easy, obviously, because, she just had a movie come out, which I was hoping that when she was making her return, I was going to be the one with my show with Bigger Love. She was going to, be that character because there's two women. There's a blonde and a brunette. If that makes any sense, that's how it goes.
All right.
And I still want that. And it's like, so I still want those things. So meeting her was one of those awesome experiences. I shook her hand again, and she was so genuinely sweet and took her time and didn't care that there was a line. She didn't care. We just talked and had a great time. And I just, to this day, I know I'll work with her one day. It's just right now is a little bit of a struggle, but I'll get there.
Yeah. Okay. Again, it's like boom. You know what I mean? We just drop all this stuff, and everybody listening, it's got to be like,
Yeah,
what happened? Wait a minute.
yeah.
Hold on. Let me catch up.
I trauma dump. Yeah,
It's, it's okay.
it's
Podcasting's
how I
good for
am.
that. Podcasting's good for that, man.
Yes,
It's all right. It's my therapy. It's what I do. So,
it really is. It really,
yeah.
really is.
Yeah. So, all right. First of all, yes, I'm proud as hell of you for doing that. And I told you that, in messaging, but because you just said, you know what, I'm going for it. And that's what you have to do in this
Hmm.
world if you want to get anywhere.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I love that you do
Hmm.
that. I don't know how you do that. Okay, son, I'm
I
telling
don't
you right
either.
now, I don't have any idea how you've been through everything you've been through. And you drop it like it's nothing, but it resulted in PTSD and depression and bipolar disorder and everything that you're dealing with. Which, hey,
Mm.
power to you. Praying for you like always, and you're handling it beautifully. So just stay the course, man. You know what I mean? You've got this. You
No,
got a new
absolutely.
job. You got all kinds of stuff happening. You're fearless at this point.
Yeah.
The one thing that you and I haven't talked about, and you brought it up because you were talking about your saying your prayers at night. Um,
Mhm.
are you strong in your faith? Is that kind of part of what got you through this? Did
It's
that happen afterwards? I mean, what's that like byline? How
I've
does that
always
work?
been. I didn't really believe in. Not that I didn't believe in praying. I was about 16 years old. I lost a really significant family member, and I just wanted to talk to her. So I just started praying, and then it turned into me talking to God, and then it turned into once my grandmother passed away, um, 11 years ago. It was I have to talk to her every night. And then I know you're not supposed to pray to specific people, but I give my day to her and I talk and I just let her know what's going on and just pray for protection and pray that she gets us through the things that we're going through. And that's just been I can't go to sleep until I say my prayers. I will wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to say them. I have to. It's something I've been doing since I was 16. And there's people that I've lost that I still pray to. And I lost my best friend Uh, a year ago, he died on his birthday, unfortunately. And I didn't find out for a little while. And
Wow.
just, it's just, there's a lot of just trauma and terrible things that, have unfolded. But
Yeah.
it's, the faith has been there, and I have to talk to him because I didn't get a chance to say goodbye because he called me and I didn't answer. And
Oh,
I have a little bit of guilt because 2 days later, and I was really sick, and it was like 2 in the morning, and me and him had the best 2 in the morning conversations, but I couldn't do it, and he's gone. So it was one of those things where, and nobody knew that he had passed away because he wasn't active on Facebook, so I had to make the announcement, and then I also did the funeral as well. So I put that all together because nobody had done anything. So I had his ashes scattered with his sister and his mom, and I put that all together because I felt like he needed a proper send off. And I really haven't had that big talk with him yet about, I know what he did. I understand, but I'm just like, why did you leave me? Why did you have to leave me? Like we were just two peas in a pod. It was the weirdest thing. He was reading all my work and he would tell me, this is great, this is shit, this is great, fix this. And he's the only person I would listen to who would tell me it like it was, and I would understand it. So I talk to him every night. I pray, and I talk to him, and I'm just like, just the strength for your son and for your ex. I just just please be with them, but also I could use you a little bit. I could
yeah.
use you around me. So I know. So I pray every day, and it's a very important part of my life. Always has been. I wear the cross. I
Yeah, I
just
saw that. Yeah.
I'm I'm more spiritual than I am actually. I haven't gone to church. I don't go to church. I believe God
Okay.
can hear me from anywhere. So I pray whenever. I was out in this awful weather last night, and I was praying. It was in a blizzard to get home last night. It was an hour-long drive, and it took almost 2 hours to get home in the worst traffic. And I was praying. I was just, please, please, please get me home. Because I got stuck out there. I was stuck an hour away. So I believe my faith has carried me certain ways. But it's been tested and it's been, shaken a lot. So I continue to have it, but I have moments where I think to myself, is there a God? Because there's all these terrible things happening. And I know that there is, but I also at the same time have my questions and concerns and doubts when I'm having those moments of rage or anger. And then when I'm level headed, I will feel differently, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something else that I'm not sure I've given you enough credit for, and I've tried, but I don't know if I've really delivered on this one. But um, at every step in your life, when you're facing adversity, you are leading, you're taking care of somebody else, you're stepping up and being the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've taken care of your mom and your sister. This happens with your friend, and you're the one that steps up. It's honestly, most people who went through what you went through would still be curled up in a ball, and would
Yeah.
not want to do anything. You know what I mean? Let alone take on
Exactly.
all of that responsibility. Where does that come from with
My
you?
mother and my grandmother.
Yeah.
It has to be from the women that raised me. I was raised by three women, and it was my grandmother and her best friend. And so she's also my grandmother as well, and that's the one. She was just diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer as of yesterday. We got the diagnosis. So
My
and she
God.
was given a very
Man.
short timeline. So she was given less than 2 years. So she's up and walking today, and the strength comes from last night. She has good days and bad days, and my biological grandmother passed away. She had a very, very rare form of cancer herself in her fallopian tubes, um, freakishly rare. Um, and then my grandmother right now who's with us, she was diagnosed with lymphoma, did treatment, kicked its ass, was doing great, and then had just taken a little fall. And they said, let's just go to the hospital and do some scans. And they found a golf ball sized mass on her brain. And she's not once said, why me? And that's why, because I don't want to be, oh, why I'm not like that. I believe in just you keep pushing forward. And right now, it's a life or death situation, and her strength and what she's going through. Because there was a moment where she was like, I don't think I'm going to do treatment. And then now it's okay, I'm doing treatment. I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk because she wasn't able to walk. It's been 2 weeks and she's lost so much muscle, so much weight. And seeing her get up and still walk and put the work in is what's getting me through right now. But my whole life, it's been my mom and my grandmother and raised by women and my sisters. And it's just been, I have the best people around me, but not having the man around. has really affected me in ways that I can't even begin to express.
Yeah, I mean, this is power of man, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
along with that is the power of the women that are in our lives also, and we focus on fathers and husbands because that's where my expertise is at, but that's never to
yeah,
discount the power and the
mm,
influence of strong women in our lives. It's
yes, extremely.
my wife saved my life just a few months ago, man. So,
Yeah, I know
I
all
was
about that.
laying on a floor in the emergency room, not breathing, and the only reason I'm still here is because of her. So,
I know.
yeah, it's just wow. I want
And
to
what
give
you've
you
been through has been incredible as well. I just want to say what you have been through, and I was following along. I felt my heart was just breaking for you because I saw you in the hospital, and it was like seeing a father figure in the hospital. I'm like, I know I've only known you for a few months, but I'm like, wow, that really hurts to see because I'm like, this is somebody I formed a bond with, and I'm seeing this now. It hurt because I'm like, this is just awful because I wasn't here for you, and then all of a sudden I saw what you were going through, and I was just like,
yeah.
I couldn't even I couldn't even deal with that. But I'm just glad you're good
Thank
and
you
you were
for that.
saved, and
I appreciate it. It's funny
absolutely,
because you and I are cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways. I went through a lot of stuff when I was growing up too. Um, but that being said, I felt the same way about that you feel about what you're doing right now, right here on this program. I wanted to share it. I wanted to say, hey guys, this is something that's going on. And it's not like you're looking for attention or something. It's, hey, I'm going through this. It's really tough. If I'm not on the podcast in a week, here's why. you know, but
yeah, yeah,
it's this is how we deal with adversity, and I want you guys all to
yeah,
know, even though I sit here and give, advice and suggestions and stuff like that, this happens to everybody. And when it
yeah,
does, sometimes the best thing you can do is share it with everybody to go, look, I'm going through it too. You're not alone. And so, I mean, I've heard that. Thank you for everything you just said. That means a lot to me, and I appreciate it very much. But this
yeah.
podcast is about you, so don't try to change the subject on me.
No, no, no. I'm still gonna continue the trauma dump. We'll be good. That's my thing.
That's right. We'll just go
I'm
back
just
to that.
I share. Yeah, with the trauma dump. I go for interviews and things, and I'm just like giving them like when I was interviewing for the teaching position, I'm just giving them everything, and I'm like, here's what's going on in my life. Grandmother's in the hospital. I'm having to move. Are you gonna hire me? And they were like, yes, we are, because we can see that you have something in you. So I was like, oh, okay. So that made me happy
That's so
because I
great.
went in there, bags under my eyes. I haven't slept, and I'm just like, I went in there and I killed the interview, went off to the hospital, saw my grandmother, and all of this is happening right now. And I feel like even though I can't breathe because there's still so many situations that I'm still trying to overcome, which will be over by the end of this month, middle of next month, it feels like it's an eternity. And
Yeah,
that sucks.
yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
every day feels the same. It's purgatory
I'm
in a
very,
nice little way.
very, very sorry to hear that about your grandmother. I just want to make
No,
sure I
thank
say that to you. She's going to be in our
yes,
prayers
ma'am.
for sure, as you
Thank
always
you.
are. Now, you and your sister have an incredibly strong bond. I mean, everybody can see
Mhm.
that, and you guys are kind of running this business together now, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have two sisters. I have the biological and then I have the non-biological. So the non-biological, Victoria, we own the business. She's got my niece and nephew.
Okay.
So basically, she's also she's bathed my grandmother in the hospital. That's how close we are. She's gone to the hospital. She's my family. She's my sister. She's my everything. Me and my actual sister are as close as can be. We have matching tattoos right there. It's a symbol for congruence.
Yeah.
So it means different but alike or something like that. I forget. It's because we got it so many years ago. But we had a falling out, got back together, and then we were good. She was dating somebody who was a little toxic, and it caused the divide. And we were living together but didn't speak for a while, and that puts this pressure on my mom. So it was really, really bad. So we have this incredible relationship, and she's been staying with my grandmother at the hospital for the past week,
Oh,
and I
really?
haven't seen her, and I miss her tremendously. And we're texting, and but she's doing right now. She's doing something I can't do. I can't be at the hospital to do those kinds of things because it's for me, it's too much for my heart to take, and I don't. I want to take care of my grandmother, but I get very overwhelmed very fast with seeing how rapidly she was declining at first. But my sister is so incredibly tough. And then I have my other sister who I have the business with, and we were just we were at her wedding and we were in the photo booth and we were just drunk as could be because we had I had been planning the wedding with her. And I said, wouldn't it be fun if we had our own business? And she goes, yeah, wouldn't it be? Yeah, let's take some more pictures. And then a few weeks later, her husband says, I have money. If you want to do it, let's do it. So we bought a photo booth. We got, started a business, and it was a rough year. There was a lot of things that happened. Having the twins, having her kids, it's a lot. So it's fun though. Like it's a lot of fun. And those kids are like the reason I breathe now. Like everything I do is for them. Like I am just, my whole world is them. I spent the whole week with them last week, just having to take care of just certain things with them. And they just turned 3, and they're like the loves of my life. They're just so amazing. And I just don't even know how to describe how they've changed my life. They came into my life when my father had left that same week, when my sister had come, the kids had come around. It was COVID, different things. So we didn't get to meet them until they were 18 months. So they became my everything. They're my godchildren. So they're my everything. So that is also what saved me, was those kids, because I didn't know what I was going to do after my father left me just in pieces that
Yeah.
night, where he just slammed my own door in my face. So those kids put me back together, and I'm eternally grateful for that, because this past year was a learning year
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, you and I were talking about even in the pre-interview, so to speak, although we've known each other, for a while. So,
Yeah.
um, in that you've been very open about how um, the lack of that strong father figure um, has impacted you and the scars that it's left and so on and so forth. If you can, tell the folks that are listening, how just the absence of the father, has impacted you in your life today moving forward.
Well, for me, my father was always on his phone. He was always texting the other woman. So whenever I'd be out, I would see a father on his phone, and I would immediately be like, up, he's cheating. So that to me is
Mm,
something that's not normal for me to just see that, and just immediately go right to that. But having him not around, I grew my beard out for the first time, and I came to you. I said, how do I trim this up? How do I do this? Because he never taught me how to shave. He goes, do it dry. And I'm like, I have incredibly sensitive skin. I bleed like a mofo. So I'm like,
yeah.
I can't do it dry. So that was his suggestion when I was a teenager. So I would buy mom's razors just to shave my face, because he didn't ever help with the things. When it came to the sex talk, he gave me a book that was What a Young Man Should Know About Sex, and it was from the 70s. He tossed it into
Wow.
my room. He said, read this. I took the book, I tossed it, and it wound up under a dresser somewhere. And so I never really had that. I never got that talk. He goes, did you read the book? I was like, no, I didn't read the damn book. I said, a conversation would be nice. Right over his head. So we never got to do any of those things. There was never any of that father-son bonding where we could talk about just anything and just, be open, because I had to do that with my mom. And we have as open as a relationship as possible. But not having him there, it's upsetting, because there's not a father for me and a supporting man for my mom, somebody who's
Yeah.
supposed to be there for her. And they got married not once, but twice. So they got married twice. And I'm like, you married him twice? Really? So, but it's just, and then he had my mom convinced when he came back around that they were still married in the eyes of the Lord. So even though he was married to somebody else, they were still married. And I looked at him and I'm like, I wrote that into the show as a joke, and he actually said it. I kid you not.
Wow.
That's how the things that I've written are real. I, it's weird to me.
That's yeah.
You're kind of stunned. Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, in the eyes of the Lord, even yeah. And I was like, no, no, you're divorced. Your ring is on that. You're married to someone else.
Yeah.
So,
It's
but he
like
was trying hard to convince her,
I think
and
we all
I'm
know what
like,
the Lord thinks about what you're doing right now, man.
yes, that's exactly what
So,
I said. I'm like, that the Lord's
uh,
not fond of you right now, especially
yeah.
for what he said, what you're saying to me. But that was a
Uh,
very, yeah, that was
yeah.
hard. But not
Yeah.
having him around, and then the other part is realizing that this person is always going to be my father, no matter what I say about our past. The only thing we can do about our past is accept it and think about what we've done. There's no amount of there's nothing that I can do that's going to make him not my father. And I
Right.
wish I had a strong masculine role model. I never did. He was a weak man. It's unfortunate, because he resorts to yelling at my mother when he doesn't get his way. And again, I know it's the bipolar and those different things, but there's management for that,
Yeah.
medication. He doesn't want to do any of that. But I'm like, if you want to have any relationship, you can't treat me this way and then expect the next day I'll be fine.
Right.
Because now I know I'm not good, and I'm taking control of it. So it's been a lot knowing that he's always going to be my father no matter what. And people say, "Oh, well, you're so lucky that you still have both parents." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Well, you don't understand. You don't understand what this man has done to me. You don't
Yeah.
understand the damage and the lack of him being there, what it's done." So that's just for me. It's knowing that he's always going to be my father, but he's never going to be the father that I had hoped. Is
Right.
my cross to bear, I guess. It's really unfortunate.
You feel like that's something you've come to grips with at this point?
Yeah, I've come to grips with it because he's going to always be the same, and I know that it's a pattern and it's toxic, and it just continues. And if I let it keep going, it's a choice for me at that point. It's not a mistake, it's a choice. And I don't want to be in a situation where I'm going to get yelled at because that was his thing. He would yell at me nonstop for things that weren't even my fault. And I just wouldn't understand it. Like, what did I do to make him not like me? What did I do to make him be so mad at me all the time? I never understood. For as long as I lived, I never understood that. And now I know, okay, there's a diagnosis there, but at the same time, I'm your son. Treat me with a little bit of respect. Don't demean me. Don't call me an asshole every single chance that you get. That was my nickname pretty much. So that's something that to this day it's still a sore subject because when he's acting like one, I'm just like I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna give to him what he's given to me. I'm gonna rise above that.
Right.
So when it comes to that, I have come to terms with the fact that he's not the man that I thought he was gonna be,
I'm going to ask you
unfortunately.
a little bit of a tough one here. He came back in your life at the end of this story, and I know the story's still going on, but
Yeah.
he came back in to your life and I think moved in with you, and even then you were still willing to give him a chance because
Hmm.
he's your father, you know what I mean? And I know
Yeah.
we all have that. I've had to deal with that with mine. I've had to ask myself, is there actually anything he could have done while he was still alive that would have, made it work? To
Yeah.
the dads out there that have messed up, that have really, really messed up their families, was there anything he could have done in that last shot that would have earned your forgiveness?
He did. He had earned my forgiveness, and I had forgiven him. I had a long talk with him, and I said, "I've forgiven you." I said, I can't let it take up space in my head anymore because it was creating this toxic environment in my own mind. When I forgave him, I gave it all over and I was done. But then when he did it again, I the guilt that I felt for forgiving him, knowing that he was going to do it again, is so deep in me and it hurts. But he's texted me just as of a few minutes ago because he's spiraling up and he has his ups and downs. But right now he knows we're moving. He knows about my grandmother, all those things. So he wants to help. So if somebody's offering to help in a time of need, I'm going to take that help, but I'm not going to take the trauma and I'm not going to take the abuse. So that's where there's going to got to be boundaries. And the one really important thing is with fathers and sons, create those boundaries. If you don't have a good relationship, say, here's what's off limits. We're not going to talk about my dating life, this life, that. Here's what we can talk about. And that's not controlling anything. That's saying those are my boundaries after you've abused me for so many years. That's my off limit topics, and here's what we can talk about. And that's kind of where we're at right now because I don't want his advice on certain things. I'd rather come to you or somebody that I know who understands me a little bit more because he doesn't understand me, and it's incredibly unfortunate.
Yeah. I admire you, man. I really do. That takes a
Thank you.
lot. Just to say out loud, I have forgiven him is huge, on your part.
Yeah,
It says an awful lot about who you are and who you've become after all this time.
thank
Yeah.
thank you
Um,
for saying that.
so, all right, let's end this on a much better note. Where are we with the screenplay and Pamela Anderson?
Well, it's finished. It's called Shayna, and it's about. I sent you just the general idea of it. The general gist of it is she's a woman in her 50s. She's a talk show host, been on the air for 30 years, and she's not had kids. She's given up her motherhood to have a career, but finds herself falling for a younger man and wants to have kids. And since she's not going through menopause, she's having a baby. So she's a woman in her 50s showing you that you can have it all. So I wrote this whole screenplay because Pam's message has been, you can have it all. So it's about a woman in her 50s who's going to be a new mom and the challenges that after she's had so many years in the public eye, how she's going to take that, motherhood down, even though she's kept everything so private, incorporate that part into her life now because she remains, she's like the Kelly Ripa, if you will. I make jokes about, so people know she's a talk show host. So
Right.
that's I just finished it. It's not as long as I wanted it to be. I definitely could expand it about 20 more pages, but I finished it. I registered it with the Writers Guild, and now it's kind of just I'm just waiting. I posted about it on my writing Instagram. I posted the first 5 pages of it, and I just hope that somebody sees it and wants to read it, you know?
Well,
That's my hope.
let's start working on that. What's the writing Instagram? Give me that so I can put that in the show notes.
Oh, it's just Josh Brocco writing.
Okay. JOSHBROCCO writing.
Hmm. And then just my
Okay.
main page is just Josh Brocco. I share stuff to there as well, but I try and be a little more selective with what I post because I want to entice people and for them to say, "Oh, I want more." It's only happened like once or twice, but I put it out there because if you want to take a chance, you got to put your stuff out there. You can't keep it all close to your chest like
Absolutely.
I was doing up until about a year ago.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I love what you did with Pam that day, and her son and the whole bit
yeah,
and just going for it. Um, don't stop doing that. Okay. Even though you got the
yeah.
job, which congratulations, I know you wanted the job. And even
Thank
though
you.
you got the job, you
I
get to
did.
pay some
I
bills now.
did. Yeah.
It's nice to be
I'm
able
off
to pay.
one. They gave me a day off during every week. I get off one day during the week. I don't have to work 4 days at this one position, so I'm real happy about that. So I get to work from home one day. So I'm real happy. I'll be pursuing those on my Wednesdays.
There
Be
you go.
pursuing the writing and everything still because it's a passion and I want to see it through fully. And
There you go.
I'm so grateful for this opportunity because I've been wanting to do this for a while and everything happened in my life. I just was like I'm taking a pause because I want to sit and talk, and that was it. I couldn't have asked for a better therapy session almost. This is exactly what this is like. It feels great. I feel light now.
I appreciate that. Honestly, that makes me happier than anything else we talked about today. So I'm glad
Yeah,
you're feeling a little bit better than you were when you came on.
absolutely. Actually, a lot better. Now that
Awesome.
people are going to know, what's been going on with me because I've been very private about it. So just great that, people are going to finally know that, I'm okay, but I wasn't for a while, but I'm good now. And if they're struggling as well, they can always reach out to me. I will talk to anybody about anything. I'm an open book. That's why, you can tag me in there and just say, if anybody needs to talk about this kind of thing, if you just found out that your father's got a second life, if you've been diagnosed with bipolar 2, any of those things, I'm here to talk because I didn't have anybody for a while
Yeah,
and I was very much in the dark. It was very scary for it. So I'm just glad
sure.
that I'm able to do that now.
Do you want to give out any other information besides the Instagram accounts to everybody else?
Um,
Facebook or
just the
anything?
AO
Or
person. The business account is AO personalized events. So just A and then O personalized events. So it stands for any occasion, but it's just AO personalized events. And that's on the Facebook and yeah, that on Facebook, Instagram. And that's the photo booth and all the balloons. And my sister does the most gorgeous balloon art. You just, I can't do any of it. So I just tie the balloons for her. And I have no skin left by the end of the day. I had to tie off 30 of them in like 5 minutes. And I said, I had no skin left. And I said, we have to go. I got to go bandage up because it's a lot, but she makes it so much fun. And we have a great time doing it. So I have the business and I have the writing and I have the teaching. I got a full plate and life as well. So it's a overly full plate.
I'm really glad to hear that. You deserve it. So I'm glad to hear that, man. I really am.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We'll make sure that's all in the show notes. All that stuff's going to be in the show notes so people can reach out to you. And
Perfect.
hey, maybe somebody's going to reach out and say, hey, talking about the screenplay thing. You know what I mean? So as long as you got it
Yeah,
registered, you're
I would
safe,
love
right?
that. Oh
That's how
yeah,
that works?
they're
Yeah.
all
Okay.
registered. Yeah, they're registered.
Beautiful.
They're safe.
All right. Good. Plus, we got to figure out how to get a hold of Pam Anderson again, for you.
I know.
So,
I gotta figure this out because I gotta go to the person. She's gonna read that. I feel like I did this with her in mind. I have things that I gotta do. So
nice.
if Pam is
Nice. Nice.
watching, yeah, fingers crossed.
Right on. All right, man.
Perfect.
Listen, thank you, Josh, for coming on
Thank
and
you.
just for sharing all this with everybody. I know that there's at least one guy out there, and this is why I do the podcast, because there's at least one guy out there that's going to be influenced by what you have to say, who's dealing with something similar, who feels like he's completely and totally alone. And your conversation lets that one guy know that he's not. It's very important to do.
Yeah,
So I'm proud of you
thank
for
you.
doing
And
it,
thank you for
and
having me.
thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. It
All right,
was an
folks.
absolute blast.
You've heard another fantastic episode of The Power of Man. Um, this one really hit me because I know this guy and I know what he's been through, and I haven't been anywhere near along for the ride, but just in the few months I've known him, I've been able to see a lot of what he's gone through and the way he's grown. So I'm really proud of you, man. And folks,
Thank you.
this is the Power Man podcast. This is for you. This is to make sure that you guys all remember that you matter and that you're worth it. And at some point, just like Josh here, you got to believe it. Until next time.